Dragon Ball Sparking Zero should be out today, and with its amazing roster, it only reminded me of Smash Brothers, you know. Why? Maybe it had something to do with both of these games really being a love letter to each respective franchise, or it could have been Goku and Smash's funny meme. But either way, it made me wonder to myself, how would Goku perform if he was suddenly thrust into a world full of, you know, plumbers, hedgehogs, gods, just a whole bunch of characters. Hence the premise of today's video. Before I dive right into this one, because it's going to be super long, I want to ask you guys to subscribe. It took me a very long time to make it. Please, I'm begging you. And also the last thing I need to say is, I will be scaling each franchise from a canonical point of view. I don't want to just scale Smash Brothers, because then they would all be relative and the video would be a lot shorter, and it would just be a cop-out, as, you know, Smash has some pretty insane scaling, and it will likely result in every character just being able to beat Goku, so that's not really fun. So I took the liberty of scaling each and every franchise in an attempt to discover which characters can canonically beat Goku and which canonically cannot. So with that being said, let's dive right into the video. First up, we got Duck Hunt, and he's literally just a dog with a duck and I guess a gun or something. I'm not even gonna waste my breath with this guy, so next. The Wii Fit Trainer and the Mii should be in the same category, as the Wii Fit Trainer is shown throughout the games outside of Smash to be the one who's training them to begin with. These guys are strong enough to punch through steel chains and send punching bags flying with their, you know, strikes, which would grant them some wall level scaling. It's pretty funny that they scale that high and all that, but punching steel isn't too impressive compared to someone who's punching planets, so yeah. Next. Pikmin are pretty garbage physically within the verse, capping at around below average human level because they're like just that small. But in terms of speed, at least, he would possess MFTL plus combat speed and reaction times due to him manually driving his spaceship at presumably interstellar speeds. But a higher end of AP does exist, as he is in possession of the Dimensional Slicer, which according to the files can cut through time and space, granting this weapon potentially uni plus scaling. Combine this factor with him possessing MFTL plus speeds, and I'd say that he's getting past maybe Saiyan Saga with it, as despite the AP gap, Dragon Ball is just really fast, really quickly, as during Namek Saga alone you have Goku, before the end of his training, reacting to debris while attached to a spaceship, traveling 1 trillion times faster than the speed of light. So a current Goku especially is just blitzing Olimar and taking that Dimensional Slicer. And there's also the fact that it's probably a joke, as you can visually see that it's just a can opener. This might just be an example of Olimar hyping up the strange treasures of this strange alien world, so there's a pretty real possibility that this is just a can opener. But hey, at least he has a star-busting weapon, so yeah, that thing is ripping through OG Dragon Ball surprisingly. It should be faster than OG Dragon Ball as well. But by Z and Super, Goku is taking that thing point blank and just stomping all of them out. Next. Animal Crossing's pretty funny, so I'm gonna keep this quick. These guys' best feats are just chopping down trees and fishing literal sharks and whales out of the ocean, which is pretty decent, I guess. It's like water small building level depending on the size of the whales, so yeah, Goku kinda just whips and nays. Next. This verse was pretty interesting because it has a lot of consistent large building level feats and hypersonic speed calcs, which hopefully I should be putting on screen now. I'm just gonna buy myself some more time because, you know, I want you guys to see how consistent it is. But yeah, with that being said, Goku as a child was like faster than lightning, and Saiyan Saga characters can do this. So yeah, Goku got that. Next. This was another funny verse to look into, as they reach the large building the city block level ends in terms of AP, as they can swap hands with polar bears who with their casual stomps can bring down the mountain of the game down an entire level. And as for speed, they can bring down condors, which at best fly at around 55 miles per hour. Pretty impressive, but yeah. Next. All of the characters from ARMS are relative to one another, so all I gotta do for the verse is just scale one guy, and then that's pretty much the entire, you know, franchise. And this is convenient, as one character possesses a glove that is stated to be able to demolish entire buildings. Seeing as how every character in the game can survive hits from this weapon, this would grant them, in the verse, anywhere from building to large building level scaling. This sentiment is also consistent with Calc, so that's neat. Which, if you think about it, is just a really nice way of saying that Goku solos. Next. Rob the Robot. This guy is literally a toy. Yeah, you tell me who wins. Next. Oh wait, my guys are telling me that was the last of the super fodder verses. Good. I can only say Goku would one-shot so many times before we start to get into like conversations. From here now, I'm just gonna go with a more random order. I'm not gonna really go from weakest to strongest as I just was. So let's go with someone a little closer to Goku's style, being none other than... With Ultimate, we have two Street Fighter reps, being Ken and Ryu. Both of these guys are relative, so I really only have to scale one of them, so I'm gonna just go with Ryu. This guy has recently gotten quite the buff from an inverse perspective, because as recently as Street Fighter 6, due to years of extended training, he has finally found himself able to provide Akuma a satisfying battle, despite, yes, ultimately losing. Akuma is a guy who can casually destroy small islands, which comes up to around mountain level, but you can get him a lot higher as he scales to Gil, a character who with the wave of his hand can with the ocean, which comes out to around island level. Ryu would scale as Oru, a character who can sense Gi, says that Gil is around as strong as Ryu. So yeah. As for speed now, he would also get some light speed stuff due to his scaling to Gil, who literally omits the stuff casually. And he's also stated to be a beam of light himself. So yeah, that's a nice speed of light scaling for Ryu and Ken. That's nice, but here's Saiyan Saga Piccolo destroying the moon with a no-name Ki blast. Don't feel too bad, Ryu. At least you was able to catch up to Akuma. Next. Staying with Capcom now, let's move on to perhaps the gaming studio's most famous IP, being the Blue Bomber himself, Mega Man. Seeing as how we only have one rep, being Mega Man himself, this should be pretty simple. So how strong is our boy? Well, obviously, he's probably most known for his crossovers with Sonic the Hedgehog, but those are not canon, so we're not going to talk about it. Despite this though, he is by far the strongest character that we have talked about so far, as Mega Man scales to characters who can casually generate small black holes, and don't feel too bad because even though yes, these black holes are pretty small, it would take a black hole a couple of inches to destroy the planet. So these Mega Man sized ones are actually pretty impressive, as they would get into the dwarf star level ranges, anywhere from 30 to 49 Ronatons to be exact. Mega Man also has MFTO plus speed calcs, as he can pretty casually evade said black holes, and he can even fly through space at interstellar speeds. Unfortunately, this is still weaker than King Vegeta's triple plant bus, and it's also slower than pre-Namek Goku's established reaction time. I know what you guys are thinking, pulling those two things is very cheap, but it is what it is. Next. Finally, we have the first of Nintendo's really big IPs, being Splatoon. You might think the verse is super fodder, and I'd say nah. The verse has city to even multi-continental implications for the weapons of the verse, as the Princess Cannon was able to overpower a statue that had enough power to destroy a city and even the entire world, which in this context would be a surface level type thing, so yeah, multi-continental. But for the highest end, the main character was able to defeat Mr. Gruz, who could cover the entire planet with his fur. Due to the speed and the portion of the planet that was affected, this would be some very casual small planetary AP. As for speed now, they can react to super jumps, with one of these super jumps being used to get from space to deep underground in a very short period of time, which is around massively hypersonic. Small planetary AP and massively hypersonic speed is not too bad for Splatoon anyways, but yeah. Next. Our first of the original 12 Smash IPs, being Metroid. This series has 3 reps in Smash Brothers, being Dark Samus, Samus, and Ridley. So let's get into that. All 3 of these characters are relative, so once again, all I really gotta do is scale Samus. She's a character who with her tech can freeze stars, which will get into the multi-continental ranges, and destroy entire planets, which is just planetary. These showings are consistent as she can destroy regular Metroids who are durable enough to survive the collision between the Leviathan and a massive planet, with the crash being so violent that it's been recorded to have outputted around 73 Zenitons of ZNT. And Samus can defeat these guys, which will grant some casual planetary scaling. But her best stuff comes from Metroid Prime 2, where in her light suit, she was able to convert the dark ether into pure energy, and then she used that energy to stabilize 2 planets, which at worst would grant her some dwarf star level scaling. But at best, it actually gets up to large star level. Dark Samus also survived this event, so that's pretty neat for her. As for Ridley though, he maybe scales to this level of power, but I think he's safer in the planetary ranges as he primarily boxes with the base Samus. As for speed though, it comes from the Purple Dragon himself, as he can fly on similar ranges of speed as Samus's own gunship, which can cross entire galaxies in the time that it takes for a conversation to be had. These 2 guys fight each other, so they scale to this level of speed. Finally, we have a character who can survive the King Vegeta handwave. But with that, we're gonna have to talk about first form Frieza's finger, as Bro can produce a death ball so potent that it can destroy the planet Vegeta, a celestial body so massive that it has 2 suns orbiting it. And yeah, Frieza presumably destroyed these stars as well, as they're just gone with the planet itself, granting first form Frieza large star level to potentially solar system level attack potency. Goku can box on par with final form Frieza, who is dozens of times stronger, and in Dragon Ball Super he can fight with Frieza, who is literally multiple infinite layers stronger than he was in Namek Saga. It's kind of hard to explain, but he would upscale feats like this. And there's also the fact that there's a speed gap, as while Samus's stuff is confirmed to like travel galaxies in the time it takes conversations to be had, Frieza is confirmed to be faster than his own ships, which can cross galaxies in seconds. So yeah, Metroid, your verse was very strong. Stand proud. You have put up great numbers if Dragon Ball stopped at the Piccolo Jr. arc. Next. Fire Emblem. So yeah, these guys got swords and fire and spells and... Hey, don't look at me like that. We all knew where that was going. Plus, it's only Fire Emblem. Even the Smash fans are tired of seeing that IP around. Oop, all 12 Fire Emblem fans are gonna be pretty mad at that one. But anyways, I thought this was the end of the forest section. Yeah, we got a lot of neat planetary, and we're even starting to get into those star level ranges. But for the most part, this has been a breeze for Goku. Man, I hope this changes with our next rep. Seriously? Well, Pac-Man is a character who can pulverize metal boxes, and he scales to characters who can destroy massive stone walls to a multi-city block level extent. His power is so potent that it can generate enough electricity to run entire cities, and he can defeat characters who can produce storms, which would require city levels amount of energy. Yeah, I know. Give me a minute. Oh, look at this. At best, with his Toon Force, he can grow and replace planets, and for his speed, what am I kidding? Goku would obliterate this guy too. I need someone strong, versatile, maybe a little cocky, you know, spiky hair, and most importantly, fast, seeing as how most of these characters are getting blitzed. I need... Right now, we have none other than Sonic the Hedgehog. Well, how strong is he? Well, at best, in terms of cross-verse anyways, he's gonna scale above Solaris, a character who's referenced to be extra-dimensional. At worst, this would grant this creature 4th dimensional scaling, but seeing as how the Sonic cosmology has realms such as Imaginary World, which have 4th dimensional spaces located inside of them, Eggman is also aware of these spaces, so his statement of Solaris being super dimensional would be pretty telling. Sonic at the time barely scaled to Solaris, but he's gotten much stronger since then, as he would go on to fight stronger enemies such as the Time Eater, Infinite, and even the End. Just to cement Sonic into this universal level of power and then some, I want to talk about the Time Eater, a character who was going to literally eat space-time and stuff like that of sort. There's also the fact that Solaris himself was going to just destroy the multiverse, but his statement of being super dimensional is just a lot more impressive due to the scale of the cosmology. As for speed, now, a lot of the best stuff is from Sonic Generations, as he can fight on par with the Time Eater, someone who really flies through time, eats it as well. And even as recently as during the events of Sonic Frontiers, the end states that Sonic is a phenomenon that transcends time. But for some more consistency for a base Sonic, he was able to fight on par with the Death Egg robot, who surpassed Infinite, a character who himself would be above Solaris and the Time Eater, as he's stated to be the strongest Sonic enemy of all time. And Eggman himself states that Infinite surpasses all of his creation 1,000-fold, which would kind of technically include the Time Eater. He also calls Infinite unstoppable, so you know, there's that. So base Sonic would scale to characters who can eat multiple timelines, transcend time, eat time. It's just like, yeah. As even at best, a current Goku would only be in the multiversal ranges, as even as early as the beginning of Dragon Ball Super, Goku in a clash with a suppressed Beerus threatened the entirety of the macrocosm, which has multiple infinite-sized space-times, which all come together to form one gigantic macrocosm, which Goku and Beerus were going to destroy. Goku absorbed that power into his base, and he's gotten much stronger since then. Like, a Super Saiyan 3 multiplier is like 400 times, if I remember correctly, so you could only imagine the multipliers on top of his base that Super Saiyan Blue, Super Saiyan God, Master Ultra Instinct, you know, stuff of the sort. So this would mean that Goku would be around multiversal. And as for his speed, Goku's very, very fast, don't get me wrong, but he's not like transcends the concept of time fast. Even if you want to get Goku into the immeasurable layers of power, he would get this via upscaling off Infinite Zamasu, a character whose aura was felt throughout multiple timelines, as well as his performance against Head. Even if we were to grant Goku these ends of speed, I think it's pretty clear to everyone who scales to this tier of speed more casually and more consistently. And there's also the factor of Goku just not scaling as high as Sonic does. Sonic is 5D while Goku's like pretty deep into 4D. So Sonic would blitz one shot. There we go. Took us 10 minutes, but Goku actually lost a fight. Let's hope that our next competitor can keep up the same energy. Keeping up with the Sega reps, we have Bayonetta, and pretty much the peak of her scaling comes from her showing against Singularity, the final boss of Bayonetta 3. And yeah, she had help, but both characters that she got help from were relative to her to begin with, and you'll see that scaling to Singularity in any way, shape, or form, even if it's downscaling by like a little bit, it really wouldn't amount to too much. So yeah, this is because Singularity fused himself with the entire Bayonetta multiverse, which is stated to contain infinite universes. Singularity's power would also become so great that his influence could reach the void, which encompasses the infinite multiverse like how the universe does the planet Earth, meaning that he and Bayonetta by extension would scale anywhere from multiversal plus to low complex multiversal, or 5D, and that would grant both parties infinite immeasurable speed, as Singularity literally becomes an infinite multiverse, and his power could spread to planes of existence that view that construct as finite. So yeah, she beats Goku as well, due to the same reasoning Sonic does, but I'm pretty impressed by how high she scales. I might put her against Dante or something. But yeah, before I go on a different tangent, let's get to our next rap. Next. Honestly, man, I'm not even mad. Goku was getting bodied. I guess it's just like the video's way of balancing itself out. But anyways, Lil Ma is a character who's capable of fighting on par and even defeating Mike Tyson, who's the strongest fighter in the game, meaning that he'd upscale the feats of strength performed by inferior combatants. I don't really want to waste my breath describing these things, so I'm gonna just do the old trick of yapping while the calcs slide up and down. Blah, 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 blah. Hopefully I'm giving myself enough time. Yeah, you know Goku solos. Yeah. Alright, that should be enough. Next. Castlevania. You guys might be seeing these vampire hunters and being like, oh, fodder. Let's get on the building level and just wrap it up. But as you guys will see, these guys are more than meets the eye. Their main scaling primarily comes from their battles against the vampire king himself, being Dracula, as this is a character who can casually destabilize the flow of time and create massive black holes which are shown to devour entire stars. At best though, he scales above Menace, a character whose defeat started to collapse the Abyss, which is shown to have 6 separate space times which are infinite in size, making it a below multiversal construct that he was destroying. Also, just for some, cherry on top of the cake, these constructs are shown to have multiple galaxies and even stars within them. He's also above the Time Reaper, who can destroy every timeline in the cosmology, which would include the Grimoires, which are confirmed to be alternate worlds, in which there are over 700 of. And in terms of speed, Richter and Simon can fight on par with Death, who can strike so fast that he can kill the distance between you and him in order to hit you instantaneously, granting all parties infinite speed. I bet that's a lot higher than you guys expected on the scale, but yeah, honestly, I think Simon and Richter could give Goku a little bit of trouble, well, during the earlier portions of Dragon Ball Super. Like, these are all characters who can destroy, like, separate space times and stuff like that, but Goku arguably in base scales above what these guys have shown. But at worst, let's say that a base Goku currently is only capable of destroying 2 separate space times. In base, multiplying that by 400 for his Super Saiyan 3 would get him above where Simon and Richter comfortably scale. So you could only imagine if he used a form like MUI. And as for speed, he's more than capable of matching these guys, as he's just faster than characters whose speed is just stated to be faster than instantaneous. So yeah, while Castlevania reps put up a pretty good fight, they simply get crept by the scaling presented in Dragon Ball Super. Next. Our duo's best scaling comes from them being able to defeat Gruntilda, a character who can survive a massive fall which due to her size gets into the large building to C block level ranges. There's also the fact that these guys are consistently able to fight with gigantic building sized creatures. And oh yeah, my bad, Gruntilda can also destroy a small mountain, emphasis on small, as this feat only gets into the town level ranges, and even then it's pretty, wank. And as for speed, they can react to Gruntilda's lasers from nuts and bolts, so yeah, they get some nice relativistic scaling off of that. So how did they do against Goku? Next. Solid Snake is our one rep from the series, so let's talk about him. Snake at worst would still scale relative to Raiden from Metal Gear Solid 4, as both characters scale to a character known as Vamp. This is important as Raiden, while nerfed and weakened, could halt and dent the Outer Haven, which gets into the multi-city block level ranges. I'm not saying that Snake could replicate this feat 1-to-1, but due to his showings against Vamp, he'd likely be at least able to replicate the energy in this feat, whether in the form of a kick or blow instead of something like a, squeeze. And as for speed, he's casually a laser timer, granting him relativistic combat speeds and reaction time. That's a nice way of saying Kid Goku solos. Next. Nice, we get the cover of one of my favorite games of all time, so yeah. We have 2 reps here, and they're both pretty high tiers in the verse, so let's get into that. At worst, these guys would upscale characters whose summons can create and sustain spaces and even large nebula. And with that, we also have statements that these summons aren't illusions and that the individuals create their own unique spaces. So yeah, these are real separate dimensions that these guys can just casually create, which Cloud and Sephiroth would just upscale. There's also another summon in the game known as the Knight of Rounds, which creates a large galaxy cluster, so that's some nice multi-galactic AP for these guys. This is consistent as Sephiroth himself during the final boss battle infamously recreates the entire universe for one of his summons just to destroy it, which Cloud himself can endure. Some people think that Sephiroth simply summoned a meteor here, but it's stated verbatim in another source that he created this dimension and then just destroyed it, which sent them back to where they were to begin with, granting Sephiroth casual universal attack potency. But at best, he'd scale above the life stream, or at least relative to it. This is notable as this construct can create universes, and it's stated to just transcend time, making it a low complex multiversal structure. Sephiroth has overpowered this source, meaning that he would scale to similar levels. Oh, and Cloud would as well. Kind of just forget about him. And as for speed, he's gotten casual MFTO plus scaling due to the previously mentioned meteor stuff, but he likely capped at immeasurable due to his scaling to the life stream. And yeah, this guy beats Goku. Bro's just a monster. Oh, and I guess Cloud scales to him too, so Cloud also beats Goku. That's pretty neat. Next. Alright, I'm going to try to keep this quick because if Ryu and Ken couldn't do it, what makes you think that Family Dollar Street Fighter has a chance? Alright, well unsurprisingly, he has some nice island to multi-continental stuff, as he can fight on par with characters who can create massive storms to this level, as well as disperse a laser which would have surface wiped the entire planet. But at best, he actually scales surprisingly high as, oh my gosh, I think he actually beats Goku. This guy, once again surprisingly, is pretty busted. He scales to characters who can create and maintain universe-sized pocket dimensions, and a character who is also going to fuse with the main universe itself. But at best, he would scale to Arachi, a character whose defeat collapsed the entire universe itself, and it's also stated that he's from a higher level of existence itself, with the very next sentence referencing space and time, meaning that potentially he's a 5th dimensional being, which we should all know at this point is just kind of Goku's kryptonite. So yeah, Terry Bogard at best actually beats Goku. That was pretty unexpected. Well, next. Here we have none other than Kazuma Mishima. This guy overall would get anywhere from island to multi-continental at best, as he would scale above Jack 6's, which can halt meteors that are 6 miles long in diameter, which would be a feat equivalent to 6.8 gigatons. And at best, he can fight on par with Devil Jin, while in this form, Jin was a character who could scorch the entire Earth's surface, which due to the manner in which this feat was performed would be a feat in the multi-continental ranges, which a true form Kazuma would scale to. As for speed, every Devil Jin user is capable of firing a laser, which is pretty self-explanatory. There's also characters who can react to said beam, granting the verse pretty much relativistic plus reaction times. Overall, with this level of AP, geez, I thought we were done with the King Vegeta hand sway stuff. Well, next. What did you guys expect? These guys are canonically hurt by Creeper Blast, which at best are around large building level. So how do you think they're going to react to beams that are thousands of times stronger than beams like this? Well, next. Here we have the final Smash Bros. Edition, being Sora. Well, as a baseline, he would scale anywhere up to Multiversal Plus, as he was able to hold back a blast that was powered by Kingdom Hearts itself, which is actually the collective entity that hosts the power of all worlds. A force so potent that it's also able to rebuild them from scratch as well, with many statements implying that there are an infinite amount of worlds in this verse, so Sora casually being able to overpower a beam that's that potent. Said beam was also stated to be able to just reset everything as well, so Sora being able to scale that is pretty impressive. And as for speed, it would automatically be infinite, as he scales the characters who can significantly affect infinite multiverses. Keep in mind higher ends exist, as Xandar, the guy who was utilizing the power of Kingdom Hearts, is known to be using the Keyblade, which was forged in a higher dimensional clash. Seeing as how the base cosmology is at worst Multiversal Plus or infinite 4D, anything higher dimensional would just be automatically 5D, which is low complex multiversal as well as immeasurable speed. So either he beats Goku or he really beats Goku. Next. We have two reps from the series, being Ness and Lucas, so let's hop right into their scaling. We will start with Lucas, who kind of just caps at town level due to his showing against Porky, who was in a stronger mech than he was during the events of Earthbound, where he was shown to fight on par with the party from that game, which would include characters such as Paula, who could freeze the Chomposaurus, which due to the speed and seamlessness of the feat actually would yield city block to town level results. Ness would also scale to this level in base, but at his absolute peak of power, in order to defeat Gaius, he was shown to let his consciousness essentially fuse with the universe itself, which he did by absorbing the power of the planet Earth, which in Mother 3 is revealed to be a being that could pretty much destroy the universe and threaten all of existence itself. On top of this power, Ness also absorbed the power of the Magicant, which is a mental space which is implied to be infinite in size, which I must remind you he used to defeat Gygas, a being who was threatening the universe itself. And as for speed, he'd be omnipresent due to him being literally the universe and would by extension be everywhere at once. Obviously, with that being said, Lucas is just getting slapped by Goku, he caps at town, but Ness is kind of interesting, as he'd arguably scale anywhere from Universal Plus to low multiversal at the absolute peak of power from Earthbound. So by all measures, he'd be pretty powerful, but Goku's a being who can destroy universes, and Ness in a lot of ways is just a weaker Fusamasu. And Goku is currently way stronger than him, so yeah. If Ness was fighting anyone else, he'd be pretty much safe, but this is Goku we're talking about. Next. We have a couple of reps from the series, being Shulk, Pyra, and Mithra, and due to both parties meeting each other, they're probably more than likely relative, but even if they didn't meet, they would still be relative, as they both draw their power from the Conduit, which in itself draws power from the far-flung dimension. For context, the Conduit is extremely similar to another construct known as the Zohar, with both in-game models being extremely similar, and the Conduit even being labeled as a Zohar inside the game's asset files, so it's pretty blatant. Some people think they're one and the same, but it's kind of just up in the air. But at the very least, I think with all the similarities in mind, it's fair enough to say that the nature of these constructs would be enough to justify them both getting their power from this far-flung dimension, which is notable as the Zohar draws its power from a dimension that cannot be perceived, as well as a realm where the mortal realm is referenced to be lower dimensional. Keep in mind, this lower dimensional universe contains an infinite amount of universes, and the fact that characters can't really perceive them, whereas they can perceive the memory space, which is a place of existence that transcends time and space, and this far-flung dimension where every character draws their power from is so far above the memory space that it's just incomprehensible, granting Shulk as well as Pyra and Mithra attack potency and speed beyond space-time and the flow of it as well, i.e. 5 to 6 dimension, depending on how you interpret the far-flung realm as well as the memory space. So yeah, these guys both beat Goku. Next. Joker at worst would scale above Thor, as he can fight on par with him and beat him. This is important as Loki could defeat the Heavenly Kings, who collectively protect and contribute to ensuring the Expanse doesn't spill into our real world. The Expanse, for context, is a realm of existence that is stated verbatim to transcend time as a whole. Stack that on top of the fact that the base mortal cosmology has multiple infinite-sized planes of existence that are parallel to one another, making it a low multiversal 4D construct. So this Expanse being able to transcend it as well as time as a whole would once again grant this place 5D scaling. And Joker can fight on par with characters who are stronger than other characters, who can beat characters who can just fight this Expanse's influence. So due to the scaling chain represented, Joker can fight and beat characters who are stronger than characters who can casually beat other characters who can fight off 5D constructs, granting the Persona 5 MC low complex multiversal AP in immeasurable speed. Once again 5D, so that means Goku dies. Next. Here we have the last of the DLC reps, being the heroes from the Dragon Quest franchise. And I'm just going to scale the strongest ones being Eldrick and the Luminary, and this is easy as they both wield the Sword of Kings, which can defeat entities such as Kalamos, who exist as the total antithesis of a character known as the Goddess, a character who created the Realm of Light, which is all-encompassing of like the entire cosmology, as well as constructs such as the Yggdrasil, which are like, in God of War, they spread throughout all the universes and realms. They're not stated to be above like, space-time, but yeah. But going back to the Goddess, she's stated to have the same type of divine energy as the End of Time, who is a creature capable of shattering time and space, which the game implies to be to a multiversal extent. And he should be superior to beings such as Earthstick, which are just stated to exist beyond time and space, which is 5D, meaning Goku dies once again. Next. We have a lot of reps from this series, but surprisingly Pit is the strongest, so I'm only really going to talk about him. And even then, at best, he's only around Universal Plus, as he can casually kill Captain Flares, which contain alternate universes inside of their cape. He also scales to Hades, whose belly is an entire alternate dimension, with his heart being visually shown to be a small galaxy composed of stars and even a nebula. And upon his defeat, Hades literally blew up, and Pit no-sells it. And as for speed, the verse is pretty consistently MFTL Plus, which is shown many times. Pit is good overall, but it should be apparent at this point especially that he just lacks his stats to box with Goku. Next. As much as I love Captain Falcon, all he does is drive a car. Don't get me wrong, he's pretty athletic and cool and stuff, but, Next. Not like Captain Falcon, these guys are just pilots, but unlike the prior who just races around for fun, these guys drive instruments of war, which means there's slightly more to talk about. But unfortunately, these guys' ships only cap at around planetary to large star level, as they scale to characters who can destroy entire planets, and they fought against andros who can make black holes that are only like large star level. And as for speed, they can cross star systems in a very convenient manner of time, but overall, lowball dynamic sucking characters just kind of do the same thing, and then some. So, yeah. Next. Rather than scaling every single Pokemon from the game, I'm just going to be scaling the most powerful one, being Mewtwo, as he's literally in a different league of power as the other ones. But even then, at best, he would only get up to multi-solar system, as in a form that's stronger than the base in Smash Brothers. He was able to create a realm that contains multiple stars, which is solar system level. And I mean, literally, that's it. Goku kind of just slams him. Don't get me wrong, there's Pokemon who would definitely beat Goku, but they're not playable in this game, so they're not relevant for today's discussion. Next. This guy has a very infamous reputation of being super powerful, but in all honesty, don't get me wrong, he's strong, but I just don't see the hype, as at best, he would scale anywhere from Uni Plus to low multiversal, as he can defeat characters who use entire universes as weapons, and then just, blow up universes by dying, and he can fight on par with characters who can destroy everything in his verse, which contains multiple parallel spaces that compose just, a macrocosm of sorts. And as for speed, he's far faster than the dark matter, which literally just zooms around the universe. Don't get me wrong, it's great, and I kind of get the meme of him boxing like OP characters, but next to characters like Sonic and Bayonetta, he's not really impressive, as a current Goku is vastly deeper into the multiversal tier and a heck of a lot faster as well. Next. For the sake of simplicity, I'm only going to be scaling Ganondorf, as he's the strongest Zelda character in this game. This is mostly because Link is pretty purposely his Breath of the Wild self, who at best is FTL plus and planetary due to his scaling above, a character who can move the moon. I'll go deeper into it, but, this is Goku he's up against. And even then, the sentiment proves to be unfortunate, because at best he caps it around Uni plus, as in his pig form, he'd more than likely be stronger than Demise, a character who could create a hyperspace, which is a plane of existence with 4 dimensions. Goku's a character who can just accidentally destroy spaces like this, and then some in the very first arc of Dragon Ball Super, so yeah, that's kind of a GG for Zelda. Next. we finally made it to the big one. And before we dive into it, I'm only going to be talking about Mario, because frankly it's kind of pointless to talk about all the other Mario reps, because they're all relative. Because as Paper Mario establishes, all the various spin-off title games are canon. So these guys can play games with each other, race cars, and throw obstacles at each other with relative speeds, and they're all relative. So instead of scaling all these characters one by one, I only really gonna go with Mario, because Goku vs Mario was pretty raw. And for those of you guys complaining about me using a Paper Mario scan, there is an entire thread in the comment section that explains that Mario is Paper Mario, so if you're interested in that, be sure to check it out. But for starters, Mario's cosmology is likely a fifth dimensional construct, as the Mystery Circle Galaxy in Mario Galaxy is referenced to be a super space, which is a concept of space-time that is defined by having more than 4 coordinates, i.e. being fifth dimensional. This might actually be consistent, as in the level itself we can see things phase in and out of reality, just like how a 4th dimensional object would react in our dimension and stuff like that. For more details, I recommend you guys read this blog in the comment section. So yeah, Mario's universe being 5D is a really big game changer, as in the same game he was able to fight on par with Bowser, who tanked the galaxy reactor, blowing up on him point blank, this weapon being so potent that it was going to destroy the entire universe. And then you have other games where Mario was able to destroy Bowser's barrier, which was created by the Dream Stone, an artifact containing a cosmology of 100,000 universes that are likely parallel to the main one, meaning that Mario could potentially be into the 5D category 100,000 times over. Going back to Mario Galaxy now, in the sequel he was able to defeat a stronger Bowser, and due to the previously established party games being canon, everyone would likely scale to this to a quantifiable degree, meaning everyone from Luigi to King K. Rool arguably beats Goku, and it's all thanks to a certain Red Plumber in overalls. Alright, and that should be everything. We scaled every single franchise in Smash, and guys, this was a very long and tedious video to make. I went through so many blogs and threads. I was really fighting it to get it out today. So please, once again, please subscribe for my own mental health at this point. A lot of the IP scalings was pretty surface level. I kind of just gave the high ends and didn't really give any consistency. And if I did that, this video would be over 3 hours. But if you're open to seeing any of these IPs return in fully length videos where I can give deeper dives into their own scaling, then be sure to let me know in the comment section down below. But as always, I'll see you guys next week. But until then, stay big G fans.